Welcome to Gamers Overdrive, Retro Mode. Insert coin to play.
Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. The RG351V is something I've been trying to get my hands on for quite a while. I live in Istanbul, Turkey, which means that importing this thing is very expensive, and was very expensive. So I ended up paying about twice of what this device is worth. Was it worth it? That's what we're going to find out in this video. So here it is. You can see the form factor is obviously made in the vein of the original Game Boy, which is either you love it or you hate it. I love it, actually. I never had a Game Boy. Back in the day, I had a Game Gear, but I never owned either an original Game Boy or a Game Boy Color, so I think this is pretty cool, just in terms of the retro form factor. Over here we have power and reset buttons. There's a sleep mode. I had a game running there. So this is an emulation device, and it emulates games through RetroArch. Down on the bottom we have two USB-C ports. One is for charging, one is for an OTC adapter. And out of the box, it looks like this. So I haven't done anything fancy to it. You can see we have emulators for DS, Final Burn Alpha, this is a MAME, WonderSwan color, that's a cool one, Capcom Board 1, Capcom Board 2, and Capcom Board 3. All perfect for fighting games. The MSX, which I had never played before getting this device. PC Engine, or TurboGrafx 16. This one is... oh, I missed that one, sorry. Nintendo, that's the original NES Game Boy. We have the Super Famicom. This is cool, it has Super Famicom and Super Nintendo. Nintendo 64. Here's Game Boy Color. We have Game Boy Advance. Plays amazingly on this device here. There we have Master System, the Sega Genesis. And that's Game Gear right there. Here we have the Mega Drive, which is Genesis also. Sega Saturn. Dreamcast, amazingly. Can't believe it runs on this. And NeoGeo Pocket, and NeoGeo Pocket Color. One of my favorite consoles ever. And PlayStation. And also PSP, which does not run great. There's an All Games section. And just overall, the feel of this thing is really great. It has this nice little textured back here. I don't know if it's very functional for anything, but it looks cool and it feels good in your hands. It's again, you can see that it has one analog stick, and that's plenty for the games on this device. Now it's small enough to fit in your pocket, but I would recommend getting a case. The one that I opened it out of, I got from Amazon. It's an Amazon Basics case. I'll put a link in the description below. And let's just take a look at some of the features of this thing. Now, out of the box, this I have to say, one of the negatives that I didn't really see many people talking about is that out of the box, the ROMs are really jumbled. It's like they just threw a bunch of ROMs on this thing, and just some of them have, you know, weird names and numbers in front of them, so the order is not very user-friendly. But you can see here I'm playing Street Fighter 3, and it does have shoulder buttons on the back, which makes it playable, very playable, and it runs flawlessly. Here you can see Street Fighter 3 in action. I'll let you take a look and just listen to it for a minute. So you can see the thing runs great. This is a good benchmark just to test emulation, and it runs flawlessly. And like I was saying, out of the box, the ROMs are really jumbled. It's kind of hard to find things because a lot of them were just named, you know, with random weird kind of Chinese naming. This is a Chinese handheld device, and it kind of shows. They just threw a bunch of stuff on there without much care for how it was organized. So what I ended up doing was basically wiping most of them and putting my own ROM collections on it, which is incredibly easy to do. It's as simple as plugging it to your laptop and dragging and dropping the files right into really clearly marked folders. So in that respect, it is very user-friendly, because if you are a collector of ROMs, if you have a big collection, it's incredibly easy to add to this device. So that's a good thing. Exiting out is pretty easy. You just click the thumbstick and then hit the mode button, and it'll bring you to the RetroArch menu. RetroArch. And yeah, so back to the menu. It's just a, it's a nice little setup that it has here. Now, if you are interested in kind of modding this thing or tinkering around with it, I really highly recommend that you watch Retro Game Core. He's got this incredible channel where he goes in full depth on how to tweak this thing and how to put new operating systems on it. And the new operating systems that you can install will improve the gameplay, especially in Nintendo 64 and Dreamcast games, from what I understand. Here you can see a huge list of Nintendo games. You can scroll forever. But there is a nice little search feature. If you go to the menu, you can search by just the letter of the game you're searching for. But ROM collections can be huge. And if you look here, I have box art. A lot of box art was after the fact. I installed it after the fact. Let me just show you some Punch-Out here. This is NES Punch-Out, one of my all-time favorite games. Let's take a look, listen to it for a minute. And actually installing that box art is just as easy as going to the menu and hitting the scrape button. It's kind of a built-in feature of this system, which is pretty cool. And as you can see, it's playing exactly as it should be playing, just as you remembered it. NES is great on this thing. And really, most consoles are great on this thing. They run really well, surprisingly well in some cases. Now, a while back I did a video on my PS Vita, which I modified, and I compared it to some of these Chinese handhelds. And in terms of build quality, I gotta say, this thing is very well made. Not quite as nice as the PS Vita, but the screen, I gotta say, the screen is incredible. Here's an options menu where you can just jump to the game you're looking for by, it's just choose the letter that begins with. And so navigation is a lot easier with that. Here's my Super Nintendo collection. I have like a huge collection of Super Nintendo games. I think I have almost every Super Nintendo game. And again, these are my collections, so now they look the way they're supposed to look. They're in the proper alphabetical order. It was not like this out of the box. Here is Super Mario World. Let's take a listen for a second. Here you can see the volume rocker here. They chose not to have a wheel, but I'm okay with the rocker. I think it works fine. And really, by my own standards, any kind of system running from pre-N64, even the PlayStation runs amazing on this thing, but anything that's 16-bit or below runs flawlessly. Let's take a look over here at one of my all-time favorites. This is No Mercy for N64. No Mercy is really, I'm surprised at how well it runs on this, because the other N64 games do not. But this is actually playable, although you will hear some choppy audio. Listen to this. That was a low blow, Tako Michinoku. But again, this thing is really fun to take on the go if you're just one of the best games of all time. And it will probably never be re-released due to licensing issues. So that's what emulation really helps gamers out with the most, I would say. Things like that, little weird situations with licensing. But take a look at this. This is the Sega Dreamcast. And I'm using Soul Calibur as the showpiece here. Again, very surprising that it plays this well out of the box. And now, again, with Retro Game Core, which I highly recommend you watch his videos and subscribe to his channel, he will show you how to get even better performance out of the Dreamcast. But take a look at this gameplay. I'm very impressed with it. A little choppy audio here and there, but totally playable. And the audio doesn't sound great, I have to admit, but playable. I'm not really having any problems pulling off the moves, and with the improved operating systems that are available, if you are into kind of playing around with this kind of stuff, you can get better performance, and maybe eventually an Android release, if that's even possible. I don't even know if that's possible. But Android runs Dreamcast flawlessly. So I kind of wish this was an Android device. Or at least I wish it had an option to run in Android, but it does not, unfortunately. N64 and Dreamcast both run beautifully in Android, but this is not Android. Here we have the incredible, amazing NeoGeo Pocket Color, one of my all-time favorite handhelds. Love this system, and it runs perfectly, and it looks awesome on this screen. It's just like almost like this device was made to play this. But take a look at this gameplay. I love this game so much. So yeah, you can't go wrong with this NeoGeo Pocket setup here. It looks amazing, plays amazing, and just totally worth it. It's almost worth it just to play this. I love this game, and I love the NeoGeo Pocket Color. But of course, it does so much more. So I want to show you a weird little thing that happened. Now, this is PlayStation, and I didn't want to show Tekken 3 because everybody always shows Tekken 3 as the benchmark. I want to show some of my personal favorite games. This is Jackie Chan's Stuntmaster. Now, for some reason, it decided to wig out. This has never happened before. This is the first time that I've experienced this. It was running perfectly before, but I decided to do a video on it, and now it decided to wig out, so I thought I should leave it in. This is a Japan-only release of Goemon for PS1. I don't even know if you knew this existed, but this is a fan translation, so it's all in English and never before released in the US. This game is awesome. Highly recommended. But again, it has some glitching, but this has never happened before. So I thought that would be an interesting thing to point out, because I've had no problems with PS1 emulating on this thing until today. So maybe somebody in the comments could tell me what's going on here. And then finally, I said, okay, let's do Tekken 3, because that, as I said, that's the benchmark, just to check out the frame rate and, you know, see that the graphics are looking good. And you can see it runs great. But again, weirdly, PS1 was glitching out a little bit. So there you have it. The PS1, I would say 99% of the time, it runs perfectly, flawlessly. Just today I have some odd glitches that popped up. And again, in the comments, if you know what it might be, I would love to hear about it. Maybe it's just one of those things. You know, it's not an official device, and, you know, we'll definitely have kinks. Now, one interesting thing that this thing can run is Nintendo DS. Now check this out. I'm using the stick here to move what would be the stylus pen, and it's a very interesting way that they've decided to emulate this. And this is using the Drastic emulator, which I have on Android, and this is kind of a crappy version of Drastic. I have to say that because Drastic, I have it on my phone, I also have it on my NVIDIA Shield, and it's perfect. I mean, perfect emulation. One of the best emulators I have. And here you can see I'm playing Order of Ecclesia, Castlevania, one of the best games ever. And you see it's playable, and you can switch the screens around so that you can take a look at the map. As I show you, you can use the stylus, but when it comes to navigating, it's not very ideal for this system. Playable, and some games are more playable than others, but you'll find that, take a look at this. This is when you want to escape this emulator. Everything shrinks down to this weird tiny little text. Look at how tiny that is. Isn't that ridiculous? Like, I kind of wish they had figured out a better way to present this emulator. It's so hard to navigate this menu too. I'm pressing down and it's not registering, and then suddenly it registers late. So if you do want to play DS on this, it's going to be hit or miss, mostly miss, but playable in its own way. But is it worth it? There are so many better ways to play DS. If you don't have a DS, just play it on your phone. And here is Game Boy Advance. Now, Game Boy Advance, conversely, plays perfectly. And I'm talking perfectly. Like, I have a huge Game Boy Advance collection, and all the games I've tested run flawlessly. Castlevania collection, one of the best series on the system. It runs great. I'm just fast-forwarding through some of this dialogue here. and let's take a listen. Aria of Sorrow. Such a good game. Such a good game. But yeah, everything looks great. This screen is just very high quality, and it's kind of ideal for GBA. Here's WonderSwan. I've never played WonderSwan before getting this. WonderSwan is a really obscure Japanese handheld, and this is a really funky kind of chibi version of Guilty Gear, and it's a pretty good game. I think it was really fun. Take a look and listen to this. Very cool little game, very cool little system that I really didn't know much about until only recently. So yeah, as you can see, it's, you know, anything basic and 16-bitish or below will be absolutely flawless. And here, I decided to end on Game Boy. This is Tetris for the original Game Boy, because I just thought it would be a nice little homage to the form factor here. Obviously, this was made to look like a Game Boy, and here it is emulating Game Boy, obviously in a perfect way. So my final thoughts on this thing, I would say it's definitely worth $100. Is it worth the 200 that I had to pay due to import fees? No, but it is what it is. And until I, you know, can get free stuff sent to me, I just have to bite the bullet, because I love stuff like this. But anyway, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. I know I'm late to the party on this one, but I hope you enjoyed the review. If this is your first time on the channel, please like this video, subscribe, and comment below. And thanks for joining me on Gamers Overdrive Retro Mode.